The reflection in the train window showed a woman Lena barely recognized, deep circles under her eyes, a dull gaze, and a smile that had long ceased to appear. She adjusted the strap of the suitcase on her shoulder, her only belonging after leaving behind 7 years of marriage. The suitcase was heavy enough to make her slightly bend, but it did not carry nearly the same weight as her heart. "Platform 4, train bound for..." The metallic voice of the station's speaker mingled with the bustling passengers, but Lena didn't need to hear the destination. She knew exactly where she was going, back to the small town where she grew up, to her mother Bernice's house. The memories of the final argument with Paul still echoed in her mind. "You'll never be anything more than that, Lena. A dreamer who can't deal with the real world. That's why I have to make the decisions for both of us," he had said in that calm, controlled voice he always used to belittle her, making his words sound like concern when they were, in fact, invisible chains. After years of hearing variations of this same phrase, something inside her finally broke, or perhaps finally set free. Instead of swallowing her tears as she always did, she simply nodded, went to the bedroom, grabbed the suitcase that had been ready for weeks under the bed, and left. Paul didn't even follow her. Perhaps because he didn't believe she would really leave, or because, deep down, he no longer cared. Now, sitting on a wooden bench at the station, Lena watched the people passing by. Families together, couples holding hands, hurried executives. Everyone seemed to have a purpose, while she felt like a blank page, an empty notebook. The thought made her smile bitterly. Notebooks. She used to fill them with stories, poems, and dreams. How many years had it been since she last wrote? 3? 4? Paul always said it was a waste of time, that she should focus on real things, and gradually, without realizing it, she had allowed her voice to be silenced, one word at a time. The train would arrive in 20 minutes. Lena opened her bag and took out a sandwich wrapped in aluminum foil, her last meal in the house that had never felt like home. As she unwrapped the bread, her trembling fingers let a piece fall to the ground. "Let me get that for you." A male voice, gentle and vaguely familiar, sounded behind her. Lena turned around and saw a man about her age, with messy brown hair and kind eyes behind thin-framed glasses. There was something about him that sparked a distant feeling, like a melody you can't identify but know you've heard before. "Thank you, but you can leave it," she responded automatically, with the quiet voice she had gotten used to using. Paul always said she spoke too loudly, that she got too excited about things. The man smiled, creating small wrinkles at the corners of his eyes. "You don't remember me, do you?" Lena frowned, studying his face more carefully. There was something familiar about that shy smile, that patient look. A fragment of memory was trying to emerge, like a faded photo that refuses to reveal all the details. "I'm Sam, Samuel Cooper. We studied together at Centro Norte High School. I used to sit at the back of the class in Mrs. Patterson's literature class." The name ignited something within her. Sam, the quiet boy who always carried worn books under his arm, the one who wrote in the corners of his notebook but never showed it to anyone. A distant memory emerged. Sam standing in the school hallway, head down while a group of boys laughed, his papers scattered on the floor. "Sam," she repeated, the name sounding like a key opening a long-closed door. "Of course I remember. You were always reading something." His smile widened, and there was something so genuine about it that Lena felt a pang of shame for not recognizing it immediately. "And you were always writing something," he replied, sitting next to her on the bench, maintaining a respectful distance. "Your notebooks with colourful covers. You decorated the edges with drawings of flowers and birds." The fact that he remembered this specific detail caught her by surprise. She hadn't thought about those notebooks in years. "That was a long time ago," she said, wrapping the sandwich with the paper again, her appetite suddenly gone. "Not quite," Sam replied, fiddling with the pocket of his coat. "In fact, I carry a reminder from that time with me, every day." He pulled from his pocket a yellow pencil worn from use with a very short tip. It was battered, clearly well used but well cared for. There was something written along its side, in handwriting, that Lena instantly recognized as her own, although younger, more hopeful. The best stories begin with courage. "You gave this to me," he said, holding the pencil as if it were a precious relic. "On the day I found my poems torn in the hallway. You helped me gather them and then pulled this pencil out of your backpack. You said it was your lucky pencil, that you used it to start all your stories." Lena looked at the object, feeling a wave of emotion rise in her throat. His words still echoed in her mind, spoken with such purity, with an almost disarming sensitivity, as if it were still possible to see the world with childlike eyes. She didn't even know what that was anymore. "There was a time when I spoke like that too, about feelings, memories, small gestures, as if everything were art and poetry, but it had been gradually suffocated, like a candle exposed to the wind. Too many criticisms, too many corrections, silences that taught her to remain quiet. Now, hearing someone speak with an open heart unsettled her. It hurt beautifully. It was like remembering who she once was and no longer knowing how to be that person again. The memory came back in flashes. The skinny boy with glasses too big for his face, papers scattered on the shiny hallway floor, cruel laughter echoing off the walls. She had stopped, knelt to help. She had read one of the poems while picking them up, something about stars and loneliness that touched her deeply. "You said I shouldn't stop writing just because some people didn't understand," Sam continued, his voice soft as if reciting a prayer. "You said words have power, and that someday mine would find the right people." Lena felt tears forming, a reaction that surprised her. When was the last time she had cried for something other than sadness or frustration? "I can't believe you've kept this for so long," she said, looking at the worn-out pencil. "It must be about 15 years. 17, actually," he corrected with a shy smile. "And yes, I kept it because you were right." Sam opened the backpack he was carrying and took out a book. On the cover, his name, Samuel Cooper. The title, Paper Constellations, shimmered in silver letters against a midnight blue background speckled with stars. "My third book," he explained, offering it to her. "I published the first one 10 years ago. Poetry, mainly, then some short stories. This is a collection of chronicles." Lena took the book with trembling hands, opening it to the first page. There, in the dedication, it was written, "For LM, who gave me my first writer's pencil and words that I carry to this day. The best stories truly begin with courage." "LM," she murmured. "Lena Moretti. My maiden name." "I tried to find you a few times over the years," Sam admitted. "I wanted to thank you, but then you got married, changed your name." "Lena Harrington," she said automatically, and then with sudden conviction corrected herself. "No, Lena Moretti. I'm going back to being who I was." The loudspeaker announced that the train was approaching the platform. Lena looked at the suitcase beside her, at the book in her hands, at the pencil Sam was still holding. "I'm going home," she said, more to herself than to him. "To my mother's house. I have just left my husband." She didn't know why she was telling this to an almost stranger, but there was something about Sam that inspired trust, as if he were an old friend re-encountered after years of separation. "I understand," he replied, without judgment in his voice. "Sometimes we need to go back to the beginning to find a new path." The train stopped at the platform with a screech of brakes. Doors opened, people began to disembark. "That's my train," Lena said, standing up and adjusting the suitcase on her shoulder. Sam stood up as well, extending the pencil to her. "I think it's time to return this. Maybe you'll need it now." Lena looked at the pencil, that small object that had meant so much to someone. A simple act of kindness that she didn't even remember doing, but that had changed another person's life. "No," she said softly. "Keep it. It seems to have worked well for you." "Then let me give you something in return," Sam insisted, opening his backpack again. He pulled out a new notebook with a brown leather cover and handed it to her. For when you're ready to start writing again. Lena took the notebook, feeling its comforting weight in her hands. How do you know I stopped? Sam smiled, a gentle smile that lit up his entire face. Because I read your stories in the school's literary magazine. I remember each one of them. Someone who wrote like that would never stop completely, unless something prevented them. The train doors started to emit the warning sound indicating they would soon close. Lena looked at the notebook, at the train, and at the man in front of her. I need to go, she said, taking a step toward the train. Can I write to you? Sam asked quickly. Or call you, just to know that you arrived safely. Lena hesitated for just a moment. For years, Paul had controlled whom she talked to, criticizing her friendships until, one by one, they disappeared. But now she was free. Free to decide. I would like that, she replied, pulling a piece of paper from her bag and writing down her number. It's my mother's number, but you can leave a message for me. He took the paper carefully as if it was something precious. Have a good trip, Lena Moretti, he said, pronouncing her maiden name with a respect that made something inside her warm up. Bernice Moretti's house smelled of cinnamon and coffee, just as Lena remembered. The yellow kitchen walls, the floral curtains, the old clock on the wall that was always 5 minutes slow. Everything was the same, as if time had stopped while she was away. My daughter, Bernice said, hugging her tightly. Petite and energetic at 65, her mother still had that presence that filled any room. You are home now. That night, after spending the day talking with her mother, she lay down on her childhood bed. Lena opened the notebook Sam had given her. The blank pages seemed intimidating at first, but also inviting. She grabbed a pen from the bedside table and, after a moment of hesitation, began to write. Today I left with just a suitcase. The words came slowly at first, then faster, like water breaking through a dam. She wrote until her hand ached, until her eyes burned with fatigue. When she finally fell asleep, the notebook still open by her side, Lena dreamed of trains, yellow pencils, and possibilities. The next day, the phone rang. Lena? It's Sam. Just wanted to know if you arrived safely. The conversation lasted 2 hours. He talked about his work as a literature professor at the local university, about his books, about how he still returned to that same station every week to visit his mother in the nursing home. I never imagined I would find you there, he confessed. I thought it was a sign. In the following months, phone calls became routine. Sam sent books by mail, classics, contemporary poetry, his own works. Lena devoured each one, rediscovering her love for literature that had been stifled for so long. The brown notebook filled up and was replaced by another, then another. She began sending her writings to literary magazines, receiving more rejections than acceptances, but each yes was celebrated as a great victory. Paul called once, his voice alternating between pleas and accusations. You will come back, he said, not as a request, but as a statement. You always come back. Not this time, Lena replied, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. When she hung up, she realized her hands weren't trembling. A year after her return, Sam invited her for coffee. Sitting in the small-town cafe, he seemed as nervous as she was. I have a proposal, he said, placing a card on the table. The university is offering a creative writing workshop for beginners. I thought maybe you could teach a few classes. Lena looked at the card, incredulous. Me? But I barely started writing again. I have no qualifications, I don't have... You have everything that is necessary, Sam gently interrupted her. I've read your texts, Lena. There's something there, something real. And besides, you understand what it means to lose your voice and find it again. There are many people who need to hear that. The workshop started with only 5 students, but soon grew to 12, then 20. Lena discovered that she loved teaching, loved seeing the sparkle in someone's eyes when they found the right words for the first time. On a rainy afternoon, after a particularly intense class on writing as a form of healing, Sam invited her to dinner at his apartment. It was a cozy place, with walls covered in books and large windows overlooking a small park. In the center of the living room table, in a carefully illuminated glass box, was the yellow pencil, now so small it could barely be held, yet preserved like a treasure. "I could never throw it away," he explained, following her gaze. "It was my beginning." That night, as the rain gently tapped against the windows, Lena told Sam about Paul, about the years of subtle and not-so-subtle criticism, about how she had been convinced that her dreams were childish, her ideas irrelevant, her voice unnecessary. "I believed him," she said, with tears finally coming. "For so long I believed he was right." Sam held her hand across the table, his eyes full of an understanding that needed no words, and for the first time in years, Lena felt truly seen. 2 years later, Lena Moretti published her first book, a collection of short stories titled The Suitcase. On the night of the release, the small bookstore in town was filled with familiar faces, workshop students, rediscovered friends, her mother beaming with pride. Sam was by her side, as he had been throughout the entire process, from the first draft to the final review. Their relationship had grown slowly, built on mutual respect and admiration. There was no rush, no pressure, just two people rediscovering together what it truly meant to love and be loved. When the last person left the event, Sam took a small box out of his pocket. "I know you said you don't want to get married again," he began, his voice trembling with nervousness, "and I completely respect that. This is not a ring." Inside the box was a silver chain with a small heart pendant. 4 years later, when their daughter, Sophia, turned 3, Lena found the little girl sitting in the office of the house they shared, scribbling on a piece of paper with what was left of the old yellow pencil, now so small that her little fingers could barely hold it. "Mummy, I'm writing a story," Sophia announced with the seriousness that only a 3-year-old can have. "Really? About what?" Lena asked, kneeling beside her. "About a princess who saves a prince with a magic pencil," the girl replied, showing the paper covered in indecipherable scribbles. Lena looked at her daughter, at the pencil in her hand, at the window where she could see Sam in the garden, and felt a wave of gratitude so intense that it almost took her breath away. There was her life. Not perfect, not without challenges, but authentically hers. A life she had rebuilt word by word, page by page. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.